world has been watching a seismic shift in the global financial order. This shift is not just a minor adjustment, but a significant realignment that could have long-lasting implications for economies around the globe. The financial landscape is evolving, and the actions of major players like China are at the forefront of this transformation. China, once the biggest holder of US Treasury bonds, has been steadily selling them off. This move is not just a financial decision but a strategic one, reflecting deeper geopolitical and economic considerations. The reduction in holdings is a clear signal that China is rethinking its financial strategy and its relationship with the United States. This trend signals a deliberate move away from the US dollar and towards a more multipolar financial system. By diversifying its reserves and reducing its dependency on the US dollar, China is positioning itself to have greater control over its economic destiny. This shift could lead to a more balanced global financial system, where multiple currencies play significant roles. The implications of this decoupling are profound. A reduced reliance on US Treasury bonds by a major economy like China could lead to increased volatility in global markets. Investors and policymakers around the world are closely monitoring these developments, as they could signal broader changes in international financial stability. They have the potential to reshape the global economy and redefine the relationship between the world's two largest economies. The US and China have been intertwined in a complex economic dance for decades, and any significant change in this relationship could have ripple effects across the globe. The strategies employed by both nations will be crucial in determining the future economic landscape. For decades, China's accumulation of US debt played a crucial role in financing America's economic growth. This symbiotic relationship allowed the US to fund its deficits while providing China with a safe investment for its vast foreign exchange reserves. However, this dynamic is now being questioned as China seeks to diversify its investments. This symbiotic relationship seemed unshakable. The mutual benefits were clear. The US received much-needed capital, and China found a secure place to park its reserves. But as global economic conditions change, so too does the nature of this relationship. The once stable foundation is now showing signs of strain. However, the winds of change are blowing. Economic policies, trade tensions, and geopolitical strategies are all contributing to a new reality. The financial ties that once bound these two giants are being re-evaluated, and new strategies are being implemented to navigate this evolving landscape. China's recent actions have exposed the cracks in this seemingly stable arrangement. The vulnerabilities in the financial relationship between China and the US are becoming more apparent. These cracks could lead to significant shifts in global economic power and influence. The world is now witnessing a gradual dismantling of this financial interdependence. This process is not happening overnight, but is a slow and deliberate effort to reduce mutual dependencies. As this decoupling progresses, the global financial system will need to adapt to new realities and challenges. This process is driven by a complex interplay of geopolitics and economics. The motivations behind these moves are multifaceted, involving national security concerns, economic strategies, and geopolitical ambitions. Understanding this interplay is crucial for grasping the full implications of these changes. China's decision to reduce its exposure to US debt is not a rash move. It is a carefully calculated strategy, driven by a desire to protect its own economic interests. By reducing its holdings, China is seeking to mitigate risks and ensure greater financial stability in the face of global uncertainties. It is a carefully calculated strategy, driven by a desire to protect its own economic interests. This move is part of a broader strategy to strengthen China's economic position and reduce vulnerabilities. By diversifying its investments, China aims to create a more resilient economic framework. This strategy recognizes the growing uncertainties in the global landscape. The world is facing numerous economic challenges, from trade wars to political instability. China's actions are a response to these uncertainties, aiming to safeguard its economic future. These uncertainties include escalating trade tensions and the increasing use of sanctions as a political tool. Sanctions can have far-reaching effects on global trade and finance, and China's strategy reflects a desire to minimize these risks. By reducing its reliance on US debt, China is seeking to insulate itself from potential economic disruptions. This decoupling is not just about finance. It is also about asserting national sovereignty and economic independence. By reducing its dependency on the US dollar, China is making a statement about its desire to chart its own economic course. It reflects a broader shift in the balance of power. The global economic order is changing, and new power dynamics are emerging. China's actions are a reflection of its growing confidence and ambition on the world stage. China is asserting its growing economic might. As the world's second-largest economy, China is increasingly flexing its economic muscles. This shift is not just about financial strategy, but also about geopolitical influence and power. It aims to diminish its reliance on the US dollar and establish its own currency, the yuan, as a major player in the global financial system. By promoting the yuan, China is seeking to create a more balanced and multipolar financial world. This move could have significant implications for global trade and investment. This ambition has far-reaching consequences for the future of global trade and finance. The rise of the yuan could challenge the dominance of the US dollar and lead to a more diversified global financial system. As China continues to implement its strategy, the world will be watching closely to see how these changes unfold and what they mean for the future of international finance. China's strategic divestment from US treasuries is part of a larger trend, de-dollarization. This phenomenon involves reducing reliance on the US dollar in international trade and finance. This move is driven by a desire to mitigate risks associated with the dollar's dominance. These risks include exposure to US economic fluctuations and potential political manipulation of the dollar. China's leadership recognizes that the existing financial system, heavily skewed towards the US dollar, is no longer serving its best interests. This system gives the US significant leverage, which it has increasingly been willing to use for geopolitical ends. China's de-dollarization efforts are therefore a way to enhance its financial autonomy and reduce its vulnerability to US pressure. The quest for financial independence goes hand in hand with China's growing economic clout. As the world's second-largest economy, China seeks a more prominent role in shaping global financial rules and institutions. This aspiration requires reducing the dollar's dominance and promoting the use of alternative currencies, including the yuan, in international transactions. China's de-dollarization efforts are already yielding results. The yuan's share in global payments and reserves is steadily increasing. Bilateral currency swap agreements with key trading partners are gaining traction. This gradual shift away from the dollar is reshaping the landscape of international finance. It paves the way for a more multipolar system where multiple currencies compete for dominance. The economic realm is inseparable from geopolitics. China's financial maneuvers are inextricably linked to the escalating rivalry with the United States. As tensions rise over trade, technology, and security, both countries increasingly view finance as a battleground for global influence. The US has imposed tariffs on Chinese goods and restricted Chinese investments in sensitive sectors. These actions have fueled China's determination to reduce its dependence on the US financial system. China sees its holdings of US treasuries as a potential point of leverage for the US in the event of further escalation. By reducing its exposure, China aims to mitigate this risk. Beyond the bilateral relationship, China's financial strategy reflects a broader shift in the global order. The post-Cold War era of unipolarity is fading. A multipolar world is emerging, characterized by the rise of new centers of power. In this new landscape, China seeks to establish its own sphere of influence and challenge US hegemony. The weaponization of finance through sanctions and other measures has become a key feature of this geopolitical competition. Both the US and China recognize the power of economic leverage. They are actively developing strategies to protect their interests and advance their agendas in this new era of financial warfare. Central to China's financial strategy is the internationalization of the yuan. This ambition is driven by a desire to challenge the dollar's dominance and establish the yuan as a major global reserve currency. A Achieving this status would bring significant economic and geopolitical benefits to China. A globally recognized reserve currency confers considerable advantages. It lowers borrowing costs, facilitates trade, and enhances a country's influence on the global stage. China recognizes these benefits and is actively pursuing policies to enhance the yuan's appeal as a reserve currency. China's efforts to promote the yuan's internationalization have gained momentum in recent years. The yuan is now included in the International Monetary Fund's basket of reserve currencies. China has established clearing banks for yuan transactions in major financial centers. It has also signed currency swap agreements with numerous countries, facilitating trade in local currencies. While the yuan still has a long way to go before it can rival the dollar's global dominance, its rise is undeniable. The continued growth of the Chinese economy, coupled with Beijing's deliberate efforts to promote the yuan's international use, will likely propel its ascent in the coming years. This trend has the potential to reshape the global financial order.